If you've ever thought there are parallels between prospecting and dating, then you've tuned into the perfect episode of Rookie and the Closer, where I'm the rookie and my co host Maddie's the closer. And today we have a very special guest with us. He's the co author of P equals D, Prospecting Equals Dating, Make Them Chase You, where he shows his full playbook on how he generated over 16 million in pipeline as an enterprise BDR. Abhinav Goklani, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Doing good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good.
We're good, man. We're excited. Excited for you to be here. Yeah. And David, I do think you might actually, now that we're live, be having internet issues, but we will persevere. We will
Uh
see how it goes
oh.
because
Uh
this is life. Um,
oh.
which is so
It's like a
funny because
cold
I,
call. You
at the
never know
beginning
what's
of
going to
this, was like, I'm
happen.
going to let David talk more. And now, exactly right. Exactly right. Um, yeah, and I'm thrilled, Abhinav, for you to be here, not just selfishly because you're a published author, which I read an article once that said being a published author is actually a more respected than being a doctor. Like people just when you publish a book, it's like you you know what you're doing. So books on Amazon, I've been seeing it pop up. It's I've always said that prospecting is very similar to dating, and we'll get into the weeds on that. And something I wanted to bring up before we actually kick off here is you said something two things actually that have really stuck with me since we started talking. Everyone's been talking about AI. You said something that AI doesn't make you a great sales rep. It makes a bad sales rep bad faster. I loved that, and I just think that's like a really great snippet into just your attitude and your philosophy. And the other thing I'm hopeful that we'll get to at some point is, we'll talk about the art and the science of sales and BDRing. The science when it comes to what are you measuring, what are you managing. I loved what you said about, really making sure you define what you're measuring, not having vanity metrics. I think the BDR world is such a microcosm of sales because the volume is so much higher in terms of activity, which naturally gives you such actionable insight from data. So I'm really interested to dig into your philosophy on not only how you do and what you say and what works, but also how you're able to take a step back and actually understand programmatically what's effective for you and for all of your clients because you're also a top tier consultant. So thanks. I'm fired up.
I'm excited to be here. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. All right, David, what's
Awesome.
on your mind, dude? I know this is like the best day of your life. You're like, I heard this guy in a podcast. He's the man, and here you are. So, what do you
Yeah,
got
so
for our friend here?
I guess to kick it off, I saw you wrote something about how, you came from India where you were making $80 a month taking the bus and people were laughing at you who were driving in cars, stuff like that. And you could correct me if I'm wrong about any little detail, but you kind of always had this idea in your head, like I know what I'm worth. I know it's going to be sales. So, what like how did you know like it was going to be sales? Like what was kind of going through your head at that point? Um, and how did you get into sales?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things on that is like a lot of times we try to acquire new skill set while completely ignoring what we're already good at. It's as a kid, and there's so many indicators that we get like our own zone of genius. And I knew that no matter what, I could just sell, just at the tip of the hat. No coaching, no training. I just had the hunger, and a lot of times that hunger just lays out the pathway for you. What do you need to do, how you need to do it, and when you need to do, and then just having enough human intelligence and empathy. We don't have that much in the trade, unfortunately, that we're in, and having that while also leading in the same way in your personal life as well makes a huge impact.
And I have to ask, when you say I knew I could sell, what does that
Yeah.
actually mean to you? Because I think a lot of people don't really even understand. People say, you sell all the time. We're selling every day. Like, what does that actually mean to you? How did you know you could sell? And how did that manifest itself at a young age?
I think one of the biggest things I knew how I could truly sell is I could really build strong trust without dumping things on other people. I would have one-on-one conversations with human beings like, hey, I don't want to sell you anything. I don't want to push anything on you. I just want to understand what's your side of the story. And usually when you get people to talk, there is an opportunity a lot of times. is that opportunity instant or 6 months from now? That's subjective. But understanding that there is a trust made and you naturally stand out when you're trying to be a human being versus you're trying to close a deal because you have a bag that you're trying to close at the end of the month, otherwise your job's under threat.
I love that. Yeah, I'm certified in Sandler sales, and they have the Sandler submarine, and like step one is trust and rapport. So if you don't have that trust initially, stop what you're doing, stop selling, stop talking about next steps, and go back and figure out why this person doesn't trust you. And we've spoken a bit about, coming into sales is the best and almost only entry level position into a technology firm. Or if you want to pivot and sell, weapons to the government, whatever you want to sell, starting on the ground floor in sales. But I think, again, whether you're a customer success manager, implementation manager, support person, anyone that has to be in customer service, ultimately, if the person on the other end of the phone or the person standing at the counter doesn't trust that you give a shit about them, nothing's going to go right.
Yeah, 100%. And again, all of these future AMs, AEs, customer success people were once SDRs, BDRs.
Yes, we all started on the cold call.
Yeah, so it's so important to understand. And then honestly, it gets easier as you move higher up the food chain of progression because SDR is the most frontline work and the most labor intensive work.
Yes, David's the one making hundreds of calls, so I'll let you double click into that, David.
Yeah, so I guess maybe walk me through. So did you always know like, hey, I'm gonna go to the United States and get into sales there? Were you gonna do like, were you planning on doing stuff in India? Did it like kind of just happen? Like, what was kind of going through your head at that point?
So, I mean, I never thought that I'd be in the US. I maybe was thinking move to Europe or something. And I knew like if I moved to Europe, I had an acceptance from a MBA college in Germany. And I'm like, okay, as soon as I go there, I complete my 12 months, I'm getting a sales job, period. I don't need to do anything fancy. And the other thing is like during, I think, mid COVID, I met my wife on Facebook
Nice.
and basically connected and we kept talking, never stopped talking, and I decided to move in with her, and she was in the US. And that's
Ah,
how I landed up being in the US. And again, I had no plan to jump on the sales bandwagon again. It was just, again, like when there was time, my wife was on a trip to Portugal. She was just traveling. And and I just had gotten my work permit from the government, and and I told her like, as soon as you're back, I'm gonna have a job, and I'm like, what's my zone of genius? What would I like to sell? And that's one of the best parts of being a seller. It doesn't matter if you're in software or construction or whatever. If you like the product, it's so easy for you to sell. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and sell luxury cars. Walk
Nice.
into a Lexus dealership, get hired within the next 20 minutes. I kid you not. That's how fast it went.
let's go. That's sick. So that was in
Thoughts
2020.
become things, and like we've said multiple. Oh, sorry, go ahead, David.
That was in 2022, to be very precise, because
Nice.
obviously getting the work permit takes a long time.
Okay.
So you're sitting on
So,
the bench until you get your work permit.
so then you worked at Lexus, and when did you say like I'm gonna pivot into to tech sales?
So one of the biggest things was when you're selling cars, you might end up working 16 hours or 18 hours a day a lot of times. And I'm like, my daughter was supposed to be born around December at that time, the date, assumptive date in 2023. I'm like, okay, I need to have a role where I have more space and time, where I can just be a present dad. And that's around like just a few months before she was about to be born. I just decided to quit, and I'm like, I'm gonna give the full software dream a shot.
That's
How did
awesome.
you know
Yeah,
what
no,
companies you wanted to apply to for that?
So I did have like an account executive background in India doing fintech and edtech. And one of the biggest things I learned how I wanted to, I was hungry. I was research internet. I would join groups where people are like, selling some SDR stuff, like the whole, the whole cycle, how that works. So I'm like, okay, then one of the biggest things I would say how you want to join a company is definitely data that's available on website like RepView, but also an intuition where you talk to a bunch of people from that company. Like I would actually cold call these reps who lasted maybe 6 months in a role, or reps who were there for 2 years. I would really like grill them on, hey, what's the company like? What do you think about it? Do you see yourself being here XYZ? Like, do you recommend someone like me even giving it a try to get my foot in the door? So I would do things like these and just rack up interviews, like stack them. I remember like at one point I had 10 interviews subsequently happening, and you guys could ask my wife. It was so funny. Like I told my wife, do not talk to me 9 to 5 because finding a job is a job.
Yeah.
And I would just sit for like I would have 3 interviews a day. I would just wear my business shirt and tie and a pair of shorts because okay, no one's seeing that. And I would be like ready for interview. There'd be SDR roles, AE roles. I'm like, keep going, keep going. I like having like choices of what I want to pick.
So even when it comes to getting a job, prospecting is kind of what you were doing to figure out which job you wanted to date.
100%. That's how it is. It is very hard for someone to force me to be in a job that I don't like. It has never happened, never will.
Wow.
Yeah, I was
So
telling David that
so
you're
then
like very, very similar to my. Oh, David, sorry. Yeah, you're a little delayed. So, like, this is going to be so fun for anyone that's not watched the podcast. I interrupt the fuck out of David all the time and talk over him when his internet's perfect. So, this is like, this is a very fun, this is fun. So, I actually want to take a step back, Abhinav, because you said, like, oh, I joined groups. I was talking about, SDR stuff online, all the normal stuff. That's not normal from what I've seen. What I've seen is, I don't know, I've submitted my resume to like a couple of jobs and no one called me back. So,
Yeah.
like, obviously there's something in you that makes you want to do more, but it also sounds like you were being very much pulled into this world. Like you really just said, like, it was more of a personality thing. Like, I'm a seller. I'm in sales. I'm in this world. This is more than a job for me. This is a fucking lifestyle, where I want things and I want to see myself. And we've talked about this, David, that if you don't see yourself as someone that's worthy of that next job or worthy of that promotion or worthy of buying that Lexus, or it's very difficult for you. That cognitive dissonance is too strong for you to fight against. So talk to me a little bit about both sides of that coin, right? So what was drawing you into doing that? Can you teach that? And then the opposite side of that, what are some practical things that someone can do? Like if you want to name drop some groups or just like with some AI prompts and searches that you would recommend. Like if someone wanted to leave from listening to this and go do the next 3 right things to be where you are 5 years from now, what would you recommend that they actually do?
I think one of the biggest things they could do is treat their process of finding a job in whichever place they are trying to find as a funnel itself. Really understanding, is my resume on point? Have I practiced with someone? Like I literally have so many reps. Sometimes I'm coaching them in the middle of the coaching. Oh, you know what? My team just got laid off. There's so many because a lot of reps I've noticed they don't look at what kind of jobs they're applying. Like this one rep I'm coaching right now, she's like, I got 2 interviews, and I'm like, can you show me their websites? And again, websites don't look nice, and I'm like, you're gonna have a worse time than your existing job just because you're going here and you're thinking you landed 2 interviews. It's
Yeah.
just doesn't look good on the resume. And I always tell people to get in touch with me. That's like one lever because I don't believe in, personally, I think the biggest growth is on one-on-one working with someone. I don't believe in courses because courses have a 95 to 97% dropout rate. No one's getting value out of that. And learn from people. If people are willing to help you out for free, go for it. If not, then gamble because understand the hard costs. The last time I gambled $3,000 on learning how I want to do things, I ended up having a $97,000 offer. That's a 30x ROI.
So you're saying you spent $3,000 on something that helped teach you something that helped you get a job offer for that amount of money?
Always, like in the last 2 years, I've probably spent $30,000 learning from the best in the business, and I'm a gambler on that perspective. What happens is if you end up learning from one of the best in the business, you don't have to be in the same niche or industry for a decade. You just learn faster because you get access to a better techniques, better processes, and better mindset. Self-investment is where me or anyone, I don't care, it's self-investment is going to tell you how much you're going to grow. It's that simple.
So
What you
maybe to
got, David?
pivot back, yeah, hopefully I'm not still lagging, but maybe to pivot back, so you get that job. What made you choose that job that you ended up getting? And maybe walk me through like the first like couple of weeks or that ramp period on the job.
Yeah, so one of the biggest thing is what got me the job is like I ask hard question in the interview with the managers. Hey, how much of your team is actually hitting quota?
Yep.
My bar is if say 80% and above are hitting, sure. Because if this was an account executive interview, my bar would be 50, 60% because half of the AEs don't hit the quota because of many reasons. Okay, so 80% of the team's hitting. I saw online that your product's hot, and clearly what you're telling me means that your product's hot. I asked them real questions that, what is the component that your team is taking away? What is the average attainment for them beyond how much team is hitting? If 80% of teams just hitting 100%, okay, cool, I'm open. But there are always a lot of outliers in the team as well. Asking some real questions that no candidate would answer them because most candidates are just order takers. They're not going to do any research. They're not going to talk, and really selling them the proposition of, hey, if you hire me versus someone else who you're not talking to, I'm going to ramp faster than them. Each day that I ramp faster is each day I bring in revenue for the company and the team.
And
And
yourself?
I,
Your family?
yeah, and I knew I remember at Procore, the first ever competition that they have it every quarter. It's called Peak Week. And it was an enterprise. I was in my first week of dialing, and I won it against all the tenured reps who were there for like almost 2 years in enterprise by I think 50, 60 point lead.
That's crazy.
How?
Because I know what to do. You can drop me in any role any day. I don't need 30 days. I actually would like them not to ramp me so that I can just do and not have that mandatory training that does no one any good shoved in my face.
I feel like that was like a Michael Douglas moment from Wall Street too, where he's like, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about making money in 3 words. Buy my book.
It's it's funny,
Yeah.
but it's true. Like it's very easy to ramp people fast. It's understanding. A lot of teams, first of all, don't understand. Okay, what are the key levers that are really bringing in the pipeline? What is our strong message across that's resonating? And what is the channel that the team should be maximizing on, and what channel should be on the back burner? No one knows that. Usually, when we go, and I'm assuming David can agree with that, your manager on your one-on-one would just ask you, David, pull out the Excel sheet. Let's see how many opportunities you have. How much any of these are sales? How many? What do you feel about this? And they still don't have any contextual awareness, unfortunately, of what's David doing around those opportunities. How many people did David dial in the account? They just say, oh, you've created X number of ops. As per my data, X number of these ops should go forward. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, we talked about that when we were prepping for this. Like, what are we optimizing for? And I loved what you said, Abhinav. You're like, I'm optimizing for the right conversation.
Yep.
And I don't give a shit if it's phone calls or emails or LinkedIn. I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to look at my data. I'm going to understand what works. And I mean, I'm even thinking now that those are questions that would be phenomenal to ask in an interview. What's the best channel? What converts the best for you guys?
Yep.
You know,
It's
so like, Yeah, go ahead.
It's something that I pick, like, you want to be smart about your strengths. Oh, I hate cold calling. If someone says my, strength is emailing, like most reps at Greenhouse, the applicant software company that I was working at, they were really winning with a lot of emails. And for me, then, someone like me, while I worked there, I was like, okay, I need to double down on omni-channel because for me, LinkedIn, email, phone, everything worked. Because I would be like, I talked to this guy. Here's a screenshot. Like I would like really like be in their face. And the HR vertical is hard to talk to. They don't talk. They are very phone avoidant, avoidant. Like you think IT is bad, talk to HR. And then when I got my next role, I asked them, okay, where do you think most of your people, like construction people, are always on the phone?
Yep.
They're always on the phone. I'm like, okay, this is my shot to really crush it because this ICP picks up the phone. So really reverse engineering your next job opportunity based on your strengths makes
Yeah.
a lot of difference. Like if you're really big on social selling, go join a startup where there is no territory, there is no patch. You just have a big brand and you're going to bring a lot of people in, period. That's it.
Wow, I love
So
that.
that awareness of yourself.
So, what's some advice you would give to someone like me? I'm currently in like a new sales role where they're just building out the sales team. There's not really data on what the best channel is. So right now, I've just been doing mostly calling because that's my strength. Um, but what's the best way to kind of find out, like whether it's LinkedIn, like cold emailing, stuff like that, and what's the best way to like learn about how to get better at that kind of outreach?
I think, again, you should check out the book, which is probably on its way to you guys. But one of the biggest thing is cold calling is always the primary mode. Think about it, like, when someone says, oh, I sent you an email, oh, I sent you a DM, it doesn't hit as strong as, oh, I had called you and left you a voicemail because we're still human. And the noisier it gets, a lot of people will not pick up the phone.
Hmm.
And understanding that building, not picking one or the other is one of the biggest, the picking one or the other is one of the biggest problems that most reps have. And that's why they fail. Picking up the phone, leaving the voicemail, and also saying, "Hey, as for my voicemail, this is what I talked to you about, and in this, and I'm sending you an email. As for my email, this is what I did on LinkedIn." Okay, they want you to be top of mind. David's everywhere. If they don't respond to you on LinkedIn, pick up the phone, record a video. Hey, I just don't want to be barking up the wrong tree, but I'm concerned. Is this the problem that you guys are facing? We're not, David. What are you using? We're using this. Most reps are like, okay, thank you. Okay, if you're using this, how long are you locked in with these people? If someone just signed up, why are you wasting your and your account executive's time?
Mm-hmm.
No one's going to entertain a 3 year nurture cycle. No one's got
And what
time for that.
And what I love about that is you really are being so thoughtful, and I love contextual, as you said, because we're optimizing not for conversations, but for the right conversations. So, in that scenario that you just talked through, oh, you're using a competitor. Great. Why don't we have a phone call? We'll talk to you about how we're different. But just going that one level deeper, when did you come on board with them? How long are you with them? Oh, your renewal's coming up next week. So glad I called you. Let's get on the phone. Oh, you just signed up with them yesterday? Sure, you could book a call and get credit for it. The AE would probably create an opportunity, even though they should have known in that discovery call that they were not going to sign up, but their ICP and their customers, that's like the salesperson's nightmare. Someone's super nice that'll give you all their time and they're never going to buy. So I
Oh
think
yeah,
that's the
that's
thing I've learned from you, Abhinav, is like, are you dating for funsies or are you dating because you're trying to find your husband or wife?
yeah.
What are you in this for? Is it to be successful and cross the finish line with someone, or are we just like insert inappropriate comment here? Like, are we just
Yeah, like just being real about what's your outcome and just stick with it if
what's your
it's A
goal?
or B. And then you'll find people who are at the same goal and same pathway. So that's simple. And it's one of the other things is like going on deeper because I don't like people in my calendar who are not going to get me any progression. So like I literally would negotiate with my A's. I kid you not. If I get this person from your dream account and you said they're not buying, but you still want to talk to them, what is in it for me? I would actually negotiate, and my AE would like, if you get this person, I'm gonna flip this to a SAO, and I'll work it. And if it doesn't go anywhere 3 months from now, not your headache. Okay, so if you give me a word, done. So you have to negotiate what's good for you, what's good for your team, and really understand. Especially when you're selling enterprise, it's easy. A lot of people don't tell you how easy enterprise selling is because these cycles move slower. But everyone just is treating every segment like it's an SMB buy now. And like how Maddie said, honestly, if someone's renewal is in a week from now, we've already lost because probably an auto renewal 6 months before, based on their legal contract of the competitor, might have already clicked in. So there's just so many of these nuances. But this happens when you sit down with your team. Like if you sit down with your account executive, David, and be like, hey, what is your selling process? Explain all the cycles of the sales that you do. And because eventually, I'm assuming you would want to do that as well as an AE. So ask them processes. Don't hesitate to offer them, hey, I saw these bunch of ops got stuck in eval last year. What if I could bring some of these people back on the board? How would you probably get me credit for that? Of course. Like really being smart about these things.
Wow. So Abhinav, when did you start? When you went there and blew out the competition against the people who have been there 2 years, is that kind of when you started thinking, hey, I'm going to write a book, or did it come later or sooner? What was your thought process around that?
So most of my selling skill set is just something that I've learned from dating. Like, because in India, when you're like 26, 27, no fancy degree, you're kind of like expire or outdated. And then I don't believe in the herd mentality. I'm like, why am I as a single guy hanging around with all my friends who are like married with kids? And I'm like, meh, just isn't the vibe. So I basically would go and talk to whomsoever I would find that I would love to talk to. It's the same thing like what Maddie was saying. I would not go up to someone whom I thought that I am not feeling inspired about or inspired to talk to. I don't care how good looking they are, just don't care. And those connections would be authentic. And I'm realizing in the whole of my life, my analogies were also around that point. So one day, me and Justin, my co-author, were talking about it. He's like, "You talk about this all the time in the analogies. Why don't we just write a book about it?" And I'm like, I think that's a great idea because everyone just really launches very boring SaaS books with boring scripts and boring data. Like, for example, all the Gong cold calling data doesn't even apply to Maddie's industry. The type of stuff people from the trades talk about, like, they would cuss at you on the phone that a B2B executive never would. It
Yeah,
just doesn't
my
apply.
people. My people. Yeah.
Yeah,
I always say that I like to sell to people that shower after work, not people that shower before work.
100%. They're just more lovely to talk to. I kid you not, the trade cold calling people from the trades is the best thing ever.
Yep. Yep. I married one.
Love
Did
that.
I convert him slash it was always in him and now he is like, master AI czar, absolutely. But I think, if you're a nuts and bolts guy, you're a nuts and bolts kind of guy. I love the dating analogy. I used to run a prospecting boot camp for new hires at a company that I worked for, and I would have them make a list of what are your non-negotiables for a partner and what are your nice to haves, and then we would do a weighted average and we would understand what actually matters. And, a lot for David, maybe you don't have that right now because the company's so new. So you can't look at all of your closed won data and your retention data to reverse engineer, as you said, Abhinav, what good looks like. But like there is something to be said for that gut check, so like we call it the website test. Like you said, if you call someone with a gross website, they better be perfect in every other way.
Yeah.
So when you're prospecting, what are some of the non-negotiables for you? And then what are some of the things that you'll kind of like let slip?
I think some of the non-negotiables for me would be like, I really want to understand their business in and out. I want to understand their business model because what if my software is all about efficiency, but their profits are already baked in every project they go in? then my key selling point doesn't do anything to them. My software is probably an overkill for them.
Mm.
So understanding those points, really understanding, were they ever involved in any eval? Do they have a say in any evaluation based on their title? Really finding who's in charge. One of the key things that I teach in the book is routing an organization, like literally picking up the phone and asking who's in charge of this beyond the IT team, because if otherwise you're going to get sent to the IT all the time. And then what is a revenue project? Because you have to really think about, are you bringing an opportunity that's in alignment with the minimum ACV that your team wants?
Yep.
Sometimes that might happen, sometimes that might not happen, because your leadership will be like, just get this account in, we'll land and expand, just please get this in. So it's a mixed bag. And also understanding that what is their eval process. And a lot of times, since your company is new, you will have a lot of success in landing a lot of meetings, because they don't know you yet, they don't know your product yet, and they might just be open and checking it out. Just simple basic stuff like, if you were selling someone or if you were dating someone, are they double dating you? Are they like committed or open to being committed around certain principles that you guys share? Which means, are you solving the same problems or not? And are they willing to use your tech stack beyond the problems that you solve? Most sellers never ask this question, because that problem that you solve is just one module or one software tool out of the 12 that you're selling. Can they solve that and still use you as an ecosystem?
Wow.
Just very simple questions. If you're curious, you would always ask. And
Yeah.
what is a red flag for me? I don't want someone on my calendar that is not going to move the needle. If this is, I'm being very real, if this is a conversation where my account executive just wants to meet someone from this account, they can do it themselves, because I don't get paid for that, and I'm not doing that. It's just that simple, because I have managers and other people to answer to. Or why are we booking blanks? No, it doesn't work like that. So non-negotiable would be some of these, and again, we can talk about these all day, but key ones.
And I think the big thing I heard there, and then I'm going to flip it back to you, David, is that you didn't say anything about anything industry specific. So this is why you're saying I could get dropped into any organization and book a call tomorrow. Because what I care about is qualifying the project, the buying process, the person, the individual. But the best question, my favorite question that my manager always reminds us is, the last time you brought a project like this up and pushed it through, what did that look like? And if someone says, I've never done it before, find someone else. They don't have equity within the organization, they're going to need help to build a business. They've never built a business case. They've never gone through legal. They don't know what their IT team cares about. They don't know they have an architectural review board with a website that we have to, you know what I mean? So I think it's, we talked a lot about this with Kelly last time. Qualifying is so much less about whether or not they can use your product. You shouldn't have even picked up the phone or emailed them if they're not a competitor of someone you already work with, for example. But it's really about qualifying the individual and the organization, the timeline, all the things that you don't need product knowledge for. You don't need to learn you don't need that 30-day ramp to become an expert, right? You just need to understand how people buy things.
Yeah, it's about how they buy things and what they're struggling with. I don't even pitch, like, because a lot of problem statements are good for point solutions, like that just solve one problem. It doesn't work on a very diversified multi-module tool, like let's say something like Salesforce or Procore or even something like Workday, because they're doing so many of these things. Simply asking what's their vendor, how's that working? A lot of time people are like, oh, my vendor's working good. And I'm like, good doesn't sound great. What's missing on your wish list? I use it all the time. Even when I prospect for my business on LinkedIn, my pipeline is good. Okay, so what's the gap between good and fantastic, and what's the bottleneck?
That's sick. I love it. Yeah, I feel like you get that objection a lot. Like, oh, everything's going well here. So that's definitely something I would use going forward.
Yeah. You can also ask them, if everything's going well, what's really working? And again, what do you think is on the wish list that could have also worked just like the other processes?
Wow.
And we do, I want to point on this, we do end up listening to all of these templatized objection handle with 3 paragraph emails. Think about this. If you went out on a date and you talked more than the opposing whomsoever you go out on a date with, what do you think the date turned out like?
Does that depend if you're a female or a male?
Whomsoever's talking, especially, if A is talking way more than B, it's just a good indicator of where the interest lies, the magnetism of the conversation or the polarity of it. The same thing is cold call. Like everyone loves when a prospect talks more. Like there's a reason why we look at our talk ratio, 60/40, 70/30. As soon as you see sometimes there are exceptions when you talk to a CEO who wants to meet but doesn't have time to give you qualification answers on a call. Sure, that is a great meeting because he's the one who writes the check. And he will definitely sing when the product expert, like an account executive, is going to show up.
Wow.
Yeah, I think we've all heard that story,
Letting,
saying like, "Oh, I had such a great conversation with this person," and they didn't say anything to you. They just
yeah,
listened.
100%. It's just one of those things like being human, understanding as top of the chain you go, there is always more relevance, and they might not have time to talk to you for 25 minutes. So invite them for a conversation and tell them, hey, I'm putting a 30-minute invite. Drop off after 15 minutes if it isn't really worth your time.
And how many people have you actually had that dropped off after that 15 minutes?
None.
Same. So when you think about dating, and a lot of people think about dating, they think about like icks. Maybe the girl gets an ick. So in this case, what's something that maybe either you, like gives you the ick about a prospect, or what's some things that maybe you see other BDRs and SDRs do that you think are giving the prospect the ick?
That's a good question. I think one of the biggest icks that I get is, at least as a sales rep or sales team, is really value dumping, not listening to the prospect and just dumping everything in again and again. That's something that gives me a lot of ick because it just signals to the person that you're not really listening to them.
Mm-hmm.
You're just pitching at them, you're talking at them. There's this concept of talking at people and talking with people. Most people are talking at people.
Mm.
And from a prospect perspective, honestly, I love sales and I'm from a very rough environment. Nothing gives me the ick. I you should see my LinkedIn DMs when I'm hunting things for my own business. They're nasty.
Give me
And
an
I would say
example.
to, well, like if I put I've been in sales for a decade, so if I go out and reach out to someone, they're like, oh, you've been only a prospecting coach for a month. You should come back to me in 2 years. And I'm like, thank you for the demeaning comments, but nah, I'm not coming back to you. It's just pretty simple that thick skin, if someone says crap or someone says BS, it is what it is. They're a good indicator that, when that kind of person goes to your account executive, it'd be really hard for them to navigate and control the deal because a lot of deal success matters from how nicely you can navigate and maneuver around by holding prospect's hand. And if someone who doesn't want to be held, doesn't want to be open enough to understand that they're coachable on your solution, you're just starting off the wrong foot.
I mean, it's like, again, what a dating analogy where it's like, don't go out on a second date with someone who's mean to the waiter or waitress.
Yeah, it just tells you like,
100%.
okay, this is how they're treating people.
Yeah. And as an account executive, if I have someone who I do think is a great fit, the project is funded, we're getting through legal, but they're a fucking asshole, they're going to be an asshole to my implementation specialist. And they're going to be a pain in the butt to support. And they're going to be rude, right? So it's like, even when you're managing your own time, and I love, again, we keep coming back to what are we optimizing for? I'm not optimizing for my own commission check. I'm optimizing for retained revenue that will be referenceable, in SaaS, you don't make money on a customer sometimes for 5 years. So like we're not in
Yeah.
the business of doing bad deals, which means we're not in the business of creating bad opportunities. We're not in the business of booking bad meetings, making bad cold calls. Like we want to really I used to play that song in the office all the time, like on to the next, on to the. It's like I have other people to call, dude. I have unlimited people to call. So you want to
Yeah.
party or not?
Yeah, it's about perspective. Like I have X amount of accounts. Are you telling me that I'm that bad that I can't get 50 people from these accounts in the next 12 months to hit my quota, or 80 people or 100 people? No. It's easy once you just start optimizing, really start chasing conversations. And I don't even care how good or bad those conversation is, because every conversation is contextual, and a bad conversation builds up a good enough information for the next conversation that I can arm myself with.
So that I think is interesting, right? Because I feel like it might sound, at least maybe to me, that it's like a little contradictory where we're optimizing for the right conversations. You'll have any conversation. So are you saying that you'll talk to anybody, you'll put that in Salesforce, you'll build out contextual information about the account in general, but you're not going to flip that to your AE? Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to flip that to an AE unless, it's a decision maker or someone who's willing to take the business case with us to the decision maker and involve other director level people. But again, you have to do research. Sometimes you have to go high, sometimes you have to go low, or sometimes you just have to go on the same tangent as you're talking to people. But you have to build contextual information, and from there, I would just feed all of that information, all those transcripts to my AI and understand, okay, what did I do wrong? What did I do better? What's missing? It helps. It helps seeing that, auditing your own processes helps. But again, thing is, if you're, how should I say, good, just like good content or good cold call or good conversation is subjective. Because if we get stuck in the loop of what's a good conversation, then we're really narrowing. Just understanding how many conversations I'm having, how many of these conversations are actually leading to a booking, and how many of those bookings are actually flipping to something that means something to me as a SDR or as an AE. How many of them, I don't know, do you guys use Salesforce? What do you guys use?
Salesforce.
I currently use HubSpot, but I use Salesforce at my old job.
Yeah, so Salesforce, Stage 3, HubSpot, decent attributions, like where are these things going? And I would run analysis. Like I don't know anyone in my team. I literally made an opportunity analysis map, like a pie chart in my Salesforce. Okay, where are most of the opportunities coming from? Oh, they're coming from mechanical, electric, and plumbing. That's it. I don't need to spend 60% of my time on other stuff. And I kept hammering the ones where it was coming. The same thing at Greenhouse. Okay, so 63% of the pipeline is from financial consulting, tech, and medical. These three. So, which means at least 60% of my outreach efforts every week should be going to these three sectors, period. No conversation, no argument. And using the same concept, I've sourced one of this opportunity. I don't know if they closed it or not, because at that time I had left the company, but it was a 40,000 employee hospital, Henry Ford Health or something like that. And just relentlessly, it required LinkedIn, it required cold calling, it required screenshotting one employee's message to the other employee, and then also battling the spam filters and being creative relentlessly. Hey John, you have not gotten my emails, but these are the questions that I screenshotted on your LinkedIn for the RFI. Can you please answer them and email them back, or screenshot them back to me so that I can put it on an op? Like, you are the concierge, you are the closer, you are the person calling. You have to make it so dumb and simple for them. Like my one of the biggest things I use always love doing, when I would send someone a meeting invite, I would send maybe two or three options where they can just click from outreach.
Mm.
Everyone else would be saying, what are these three times that could work for you? Question mark. I would make those clickable links sent to them, and then they can pick anything. We're in the business of grabbing attention and making things convenient for people. We often forget that.
Yeah, well, lest we forget everything we sell is that value proposition too. Like remove friction. Just
100%.
remove friction.
So Abhinav, when you're doing your outreach, say you get a list of accounts, do you do you cold call them first? Do you warm them up via like email, LinkedIn, etc.? Like, what's your approach to that, and what do you recommend?
I think warming them up is such a like a BS notion that I'm just sick and tired of hearing. I don't do cold calls. I do warm calls. Nobody gives a shit, honestly. If you're doing warm calls, it's clearly that you are scared. You want to be very certain. It's like, I'm only going to go on to this blind date event if I come home with someone tonight. Otherwise, I'm not going. Good luck. You're not going. It's very similar. I just don't understand the notion of like there are teams and big companies that are sending these marketing gift campaigns to warm these ICP up before even having a conversation with them and before really understanding if they're even a fit. If that is not a waste of money, what is?
Wow.
That we don't realize that, as Maddie would tell you, that really racks up the cost of sourcing an opportunity and closing an opportunity, because all of that is also factored into profit of everything else. So I would, if I had a list of accounts for you, I would really research. I would go into Claude. I would go into, since you don't have any past opportunities, I would literally put the whole Excel sheet in whatever approved AI vendor your company has given you access to and be like, color code this for me. This is my niche. This is the person. Focus on the jobs to be done framework where you understand as an industry expert what is this person's day to day across these five ICP titles. Then
Mm.
please look into it that is there any news that's happening that makes some territory or some accounts very relevant, because I want you to research so that timing is on my side as well.
Mhm.
And then once you're done, give me a creative dashboard on understanding how many of these opportunities are duplicates, how many of these opportunities are subsidiaries in my CRM that are maybe dependent on the parent company decision. So I don't need to reach out to the other 10 subsidiaries. I can just go after the parent. Asking these really nuanced questions, and then Claude will bring up a really beautiful dashboard for you. And then you go start hammering those. And once you're done with the key fits, you got hammer the loose fits, because again, you have to work the activity on all of them.
And when you say hammering, are you like again? Are you picking up the phone first? Like, what's kind of your
Always.
okay?
Email, LinkedIn is a supplementary mode that needs to be combined with the primary mode, that is the phone. If anyone wants to argue with me on the internet for that, please do. My DMs
Tag
are
team
open.
match Abhinav and Kelly versus anyone else. Like Kelly was like, I hope everyone stops cold calling because then guess what? They're gonna pick up my phone call.
Uh, yeah, like I'm all. I hope everyone becomes a GTM engineer. Then I can just pick up the phone and walk into it, because things are getting noisy. The top two sources that I would really double down on would be cold calling and LinkedIn. It works differently in my business. In my business, because I'm prospecting and really socially engaging and commenting, because I have to maintain a visibility on a platform, I use cold call slightly lower down the funnel, because I'm dealing with human beings like David or Maddie. I am not talking to organizations. But when you're dealing with B2B, pick up the phone first, leave a voicemail, and then tell them that I'm also going to send you an email, and then title as per my voicemail. This is my email where I think I could help you out if it's relevant. And then repeat, rinse and repeat again and again. You just have to be everywhere. But start
So,
with phone.
Yeah.
sorry. Are you always leaving like a voicemail on the first touch, or are you kind of like trying to get them on the phone for a few touches first, and then if they don't answer, are you leaving a voicemail?
Always. And the thing is that, it could be exhausting, but now all of these softwares have an auto drop. So you could just write or dictate voicemail based on ICP and then drop, drop, drop based on that ICP and their title. That is one easier way to handle that. But you have to drop voicemails, because I'll give you an example. I applied for an insurance, because once I started my new business, I needed health insurance for myself and my family. I got 120 calls in a day. Probably 10 left a voicemail. Out of those 10 voicemails, maybe three were not automated. So technically, those three won, right? To get my attention at least. Did I do business with them? No. But this is how small it is when it comes to, because most of the reps in your team or around will drop off after the third or the fourth follow up. They're not going to go beyond.
Yeah, and like even just small things and like just stop and think for a second. I sound like my husband now where it's like just take a fucking breath and think, right? So I it dawned on me back when I started cold calling again maybe 6 months ago where we have visual voicemail now. So get to the point so that they're gonna read your voicemail.
Yeah.
They're gonna read your fucking voicemail, right? So it's just like, hey, Maddie at Foley, want to schedule a call? Like, think about what that's gonna actually look like. And I agree with you, Abhinav.
100%.
All my cold outreach is, hey, I'm following up on my voicemail. Never the other way around. And my favorite question that a rep will always ask me is like, hey, can you help me? What should I say to this email? My prospect emailed me. What should I say? Pick up the phone. Pick up the phone.
Easy.
Never respond to an email without calling a couple of times. Never. And then maybe that email is like, hey, I tried to call you. When are you free? Right? Optimize for the conversation because someone who is so mean to you over email will be your best friend on the phone.
Yeah, it's just easy to get away. Like a lot of people that would be mean on one mode when they see you face to face. Now performativeness shows up. Now they can't be the same mean person. And it's a mixed bag. Like sometimes I would respond to people on email and then give them literally less than 48 hours. Either you're making me an intro with the person you said in the email, or I'm just going to go call that person.
That's a really good one.
And yeah, you have to wait. Give them like a little bit of breathing space. But I also agree with what Maddie is saying. If they're trying to schedule a meeting, if they're trying to solve a thing, you're not going to get a detailed thing over email unless they came inbound and they just want to see your solution ASAP. Picking up the phone doesn't hurt, and then like, hey, I actually called you for timing, but okay, these are the ones that might work. Which one should I set you up for?
So, so your voicemail strategy is to guide them to an email or a LinkedIn message. Now, how about if you get them on the phone, how are you structuring your cold calls and like what do you feel like you do differently on a cold call than most reps?
Well, the thing is, I just don't bullshit around. I don't ask how their day is going. I don't ask if they have 30 seconds. None of that. I just straight up ask them, hey, reaching out to understand, can you help me out who's the right person to make decisions around A, B, or C? And some people might just get really like defensive. Then it brings me to the point, even if I ask them for permission, they will still be defensive. It's just that is human nature. Understanding who's the right person. Okay, usually when I'm talking to people, I realize that, they're kind of using stitched up solution like a Frankenstein, a bunch of software to solve X ICP problem. I'm just curious, what are you guys having in your end or in your neck of the woods? How's the situation similar? And then they would tell me or tell me to fuck off, whatever. And they would tell me the situations and we would just have an open conversation like, okay, how was your last relationship? Okay, what happened? Why didn't it work out? What do you think? Like, is it their fault, your fault? Like, what happened? Like, what's going on? What do you think you want to do next? Be as human as possible and you'll already will interrupt the pattern because everyone's not trying to. And it's hard, I would say, to be a human in an email because you have a structurized approach that you're trying to do. You're either building a micro business case or you're either surfacing a pain point proposition or you're aiming for a referral. But the call is where you would always stand out or LinkedIn video prospecting.
And again, the dating
So,
analogy is so, so perfect because can you imagine on a first date if someone said, hey, so why did your last relationship end? If you're not trying to actually date and find your spouse, that question will give you the ick, as David said, where it's like, dude, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. Okay. So let's not even talk about that. But if you're like, I want this guy to be my husband, you're like, fuck, these are the kinds of conversations that we're going to have when we've been married for 20 years. Like, we got to really get in the weeds together. So I feel like it's almost pressure testing that individual where it's like, are you ready to be honest? Are you ready to actually, like, have I had a boss once that said, A lot of salespeople are up here and they talk to their prospects like they're down here. And a lot of prospects want to be up here and they want to talk to the salespeople like you're down here. The goal of the conversation is to feel like you're on an even playing field. To really feel that it's like I
100%.
say link arms. You want to link arms with your prospect and attack the problem together. And the only way you do that is to build trust, you know? So I love that you're asking those questions on a cold call. Like, it takes some huevos.
I ask real questions because I don't like how cold call is done in general, what we see and what we hear. I don't like it because it does not come from a self sense of confidence. It still comes off very sleazy. Just because you said how not to be sleazy and then you insert something sleazy doesn't change the point. It's like when someone says, with all due respect, we know something very disrespectful is coming.
Yep.
So running it as a conversationally normal you can because you want to find out people, you want to talk to what's happening, and you have such a big book of business. If someone doesn't want to talk, move on.
So, at what point in the conversation are you pivoting into booking the meeting? Are these prospects like almost asking you for the meeting, or are you typically asking them?
It's simple, like meetings are a side effect of high quality conversations. Okay, this is happening. You're losing six figures just by not having a solution in place. Would you be open to checking out what do I have an offer where I can actually walk you through how this can be resolved? It's that simple.
Hmm.
Over the next few weeks, I don't even want to meet you tomorrow. Over the next few weeks, over the next month, I am just not desperate for your time because that's not how I live my life. And anyone who has a problem, they're not going to wait for a month. They're going to show up tomorrow or day after as soon as possible
Yeah.
because it's hanging on the top of their head like a sword.
Wow.
I need to hear the story of how you bagged your wife. What did that outreach look like? Who cold message to? Yeah, you don't have to tell me all the gory details, obviously, but like that feels like the biggest deal you ever closed in your life, right? So tell me a little bit about that.
So back in 2020, she had done an interview with one of my spiritual mentors, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool. I'd love to know like a woman's perspective on it." And I reached out to her. She ignored me, and she was married at that time, just to let you know. But again,
Nice, up and
I
up.
don't,
Her
I don't care
contract
about it.
had not ended.
No, it's just like, when someone tells me I have a boyfriend, great, that's your boyfriend, not mine, right?
I fucking love
So
you, dude.
you keep moving, you keep
Sorry to
asking
all
the
my
real hard
Christian friends
questions.
out there. We're not heathens, I promise. Yeah, we know our ICP. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, and then, I didn't get much responses, and I wasn't really looking or hunting for responses either. And a year later, I saw something just organically, and I replied back on her Facebook, and we never stopped talking ever since. And we were talking about like jumping on a call for some marketing support for her because sales and marketing, my two places of genius. And we got on a Zoom call. We never talked about marketing. We were just on the call looking at each other like for 8 hours. I kid you not. And
Let's go.
and then the next call, I told her, "Hey, I do not want to be a third wheel. If you want to be with me, you have to take the step to dissolve whatever's existing." And she just moved out the next day from her house. And
Did
I
you
kid you
ever
not.
meet
And then
did you ever
That's
meet in
sick.
person or she left?
we don't need to.
Wow.
We
I
just know
mean,
when you know, you know.
yeah. And I think in sales, like we all know, like I think I've gotten to the age now and I have the enough experience where I can have what someone would listen to a call and be like, wow, that was a great discovery call. And I'm like, it's not going to close. I just know. I
I
just know.
know.
I just know, and I'm
It's
not going
fun.
to spin my wheels. And if it makes you feel better, I'll keep it open for a week, so that you get credit. But like, I know. I just know.
Yeah, it's just you've done this enough times, and like when I met her, we met in Mexico because during that time, Indian people were not allowed directly in the U.S. during COVID, so you had to quarantine in Mexico. And yeah, so I literally met her within the first 5 minutes. I put a ring on her because again, There's no need to wait or think about things. No bending the knee. I just put a ring on. I'm like, you're mine. That's it.
Wow.
Dude,
Wow.
this is
That's
sick. I'm married to
crazy. I
Abhinav,
love it.
okay? Like,
Wow.
that's so sick. And I feel like obviously, I mean, were you born with like this confidence? Did you have like successes when you were younger? Like, because I feel like for myself, I say that I'm like a duck, right? So like on the surface, everything's smooth, but if you saw me underneath, whew, there's a lot going on. Like what? This is my favorite question, and I have to ask everyone that comes on the podcast. What do you say to yourself in your head when stuff gets hard? What are like your 3 or 4 mantras that you come back to like remind yourself who you are and how successful you can be?
I mean, when things get rough, I literally just sit down and breathe, and I'm like, it is what it is. I am not trying to change anything. Breathe,
Surrender.
process. Yep, surrender to it, process it, get up, and get to work.
So it sounds like you don't, because we haven't talked a ton about data, right? So it sounds like you're not over indexing on your wins or your losses necessarily. It's more of like what's the trend line look like? So talk to me about like if you were coaching David, right? What data would you look at to know how he's doing, and what percentage of that is quantitative and what percentage of that is qualitative? I have to imagine that you listen to a shit ton of cold calls to give people feedback.
Yeah, I mean, like, believe me, anyone who's not even working with me on LinkedIn, you will see, oh, send me your best cold call. How do you rate yourself? Do you want to be more elite? No one tells me I don't want to be elite. I want to just be mediocre. So with David, I would literally look how many conversations he's having. I would like to see what kind of people he's dialing. Like, how is he thinking of, oh, I'm going to reach out to these people in this account. And then once review his conversations, how is he running those calls? Like, I want to see how is he running those calls, and while he's running those calls, like, what is he feeling? Like, does he feel before picking up the phone, I got this, or does he feel picking up the phone, oh, this is this is hard? Because I told this one guy, one of my teammates, because I have never met an SDR that's never been on a PIP, because every time your manager could put you on a whim of an emotional feeling. So, that's when you get tested the most, and you're like, the rep who starts taking actions by I'm going to lose my job, and the rep who starts taking action even on a plan, I'm going to go and crush it, very two different outcomes.
Hmm.
Even if they make the same amount of dials, very different outcomes. So I want to see, did he already toss the, white flag before he picked up the phone, or is he telling me I'm not going to stop until someone, like 10 people talk to me today?
Yeah. And
Love
that
it.
I think you can warm yourself up to that in different ways. Everything like I have this little aromatherapy on my desk. So if I have like a really important demo, I'll breathe a little bit. Like we've talked about the happiness advantage before. So it feels like you're very much we can say assume the sale. Assume the sale. Like let's assume everything's gonna go right until we're proven otherwise. And maybe just don't overthink it. One thing I wanted to double click into that we mentioned when we were prepping for this, you said, how many conversations is David having? But I think you said to me that a cold call connect is not necessarily a conversation. So it sounds like there's some quantitative data, but you have actually defined what those metrics mean. And as that from I worked at ServiceTitan, you were at Procore, what's the difference between sales and revenue? What does it mean to close versus convert? Like if you sell database technology, you understand that the definitions of these data points are very meaningful. So how do you define a conversation, and how do you not let people squeak things in that you don't think count?
I think like every SaaS company has their own version of meaningful conversations, which is more self-serving to them and not the rep
Mm-hmm.
or the company or ICP. There are a bunch of people, this is not my idea, so I give credit. There are a bunch of people who figured this out, what conversations look like. They've been doing it for years. I was lucky enough to learn from them. But what my version of a conversation looks like is very simple. Hey, this is David. I'm reaching out from this company. Who's in charge? And this is what I'm trying to solve. Did the person really hear what you were reaching out for?
Mm.
Now that is a conversation. Now, after that, they hang up or tell you to buzz off or want to proceed. Great. But if David's even struggling to reach to the point where he can tell someone why he's reaching out, we have a problem.
Okay.
So, how many people were you able to basically simply pitch why you're reaching out, the reason to reach out? And then that's when the conversation clock starts. Okay, so David had, let's say, 20 conversations this week, and though all of them were pitches, out of those 20, let's say maybe 6 went into a meeting.
Okay. I like that. And I would have thought that it was much different. You know, like I thought there would have been maybe more like they have to, you know, a certain number of minutes or whatever the case may be, which obviously you can inflate. Some people have hold music, etc. But it sounds like you're getting an answer, right? So if you have the funnel, the tippy top of the funnel is, are you able to articulate your reason for calling, and did you get an affirmative or a negative? Did they hear you
Yeah.
enough to have made a decision and they move themselves in or out?
Yeah, and the time of the conversation does not matter. What are you going to tell someone who saw you at a bus stop, you had an eye contact, you went to talk, and they're into you? Now, are you going to
RIP
wait
missed
6 months?
connections on Craigslist.
But those happen, like those eye contacts, and the same thing when you pick up the phone. A CEO, like when I reached this out to the CEO whose company is doing 80 million year over year. I want to talk to you guys. I haven't had the time, so let's set up some time. He said, call me some other time. I'm like, instead of setting up a calendar invite for me to call you, why not we just meet virtually at the same time? Now, there would be two school of thought on that. An SDR manager would be like, hey, why didn't you ask him a bunch of questions? But my AE is drooling, and Mr. Manager, you don't flip the op. He does.
Mm.
Okay? Obviously, don't say that to them, otherwise you're gonna get fired. But know who controls your bag. There's always someone who controls your bag. Know what is they're looking for and what makes them happy. Usually, it ends up being a win-win for everyone when top of the food chain is happy. And like one of the biggest things is almost on all of my cold calls, you will hear dead silence for a minute or two when I send a meeting invite. I am not asking more questions. I am not trying to create panic based actions in that silence. I just shut up and wait for the email to land, and then I ask them to accept that invite then and there. And I remember once I got a feedback from my manager, and my manager was like, hey, while you have that dead silence, why didn't you ask him more qualifying questions? I'm like, no, I gave him a task to fully focus on accepting my invite. We can only do one task at a time. I want to make sure that he's not distracted. I had a 100% show rate. On my worst month, my show rate was 95%.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. What are we optimizing for? Right. It's, you know, and that's such a metaphor for life, right? Like if you're trying to get that second date, don't send the, hey, thinking of you, how was your blah, blah, blah. Hey, are you free this Thursday? Like ask the real
It's
question. Like every day that I'm married, I get better at, hey, so like what are you in the mood for dinner? All I want to know is if you're okay with Chipotle. So just say, are you okay with Chipotle? You know, like my husband makes fun of me all the time where he's like, hey, what do you want for dinner? And he's like, let me guess. We could order something. Oh, let me see what's in the fridge. We could go out. I know the options. We know the options. We've done this song and dance. What do you want? Ask me if that's okay. I'll say yes or no. Um, yeah,
yeah.
it's so analogous. So David, I want to hear. I know I could talk for 3 hours about this. This has been so amazing. I would love to have you on again in the future. We should have you on with Kelly and just let you two fucking talk. I think you would
Yeah.
love Kelly Lichtenberger.
I'm down. I'm
Um,
down.
but David, what didn't you get to ask? What are you still dying to know? And then Abhinav, I'm going to ask you the same question. What did we not talk about that you think is super important that we shouldn't leave without talking about?
To be honest, on my end, I really got to ask him everything. I'm fired up to read the book.
I love that. I think we covered a lot of topics. One topic that we definitely want to cover is, are we optimizing the rep to be a product expert or a problem expert?
A go.
That's a bore.
I think we should optimize the rep to be a problem expert. There is this thing where a lot of reps are pushed into optimizing and learning the product. There's not much to learn. That's the account executive's job. Let the reps just be so good at understanding the business and the problem that they can just rack up a lot of meetings. Eventually, you'll get your hands on the product, but the product's not going to make you better at really finding what someone's suffering from.
I learned that at my time at Service Titan, where people were having Sunday scaries and stress dreams, and they were just, it's a huge product. There's a lot to learn, and there are 65 settings with a bunch of nested sub settings, and there's feature gates, and there's there, you could really overwhelm yourself so quickly. And what I did was think about, it's almost like the silly user story and product. Like, as a customer, as a CSR, my job is to pick up the phone and ask a few questions and book something in the right business unit so that we can assign a technician. Like, what is their actual job? And I think if you understand what the people are doing, the software, whatever it is, becomes so much more intuitive. So I completely agree with you, Abhinav, that if you're starting a new job, figure out who are the 4 or 5 human beings that we help. You probably know someone in your network that does that job. So are you do you know anyone that owns a business, David? Your fucking dad does. Has he had to hire someone? Yes. What does he care about to background check them? That's it. That's it. So I say all the time, there are not a lot of moving parts. And I think in software, especially, we want, as account executives, to make our product seem worth the money. And to do that, we make it seem complex, and it can be very intimidating. So it can seem silly where it's like, yeah, I'm going to charge you $1 million a year for this. And there aren't a lot of moving parts, dude. They're not a lot. It's really not that complicated. Like that, I think takes a lot of confidence. And it is, again, analogous to dating. I think people say all these different things. I don't know about his job. How tall is he? He's like he doesn't wear, he's an Adidas guy, not Nikes. Like, I can hear all my friends of having all these different, like, it's like a Seinfeld episode. You can find something wrong with anyone. But at the same time, like you said, Abhinav, if the spark is there, if you can talk about everything and nothing, if you're not getting sick of each other, if everything is better when they're there. Like, there's just like a couple of like very obvious things where it's like, I like you around. I say, like, the best relationships, marriages especially, you are lovers, you are best friends, and you are business partners. You have 3 legs to the stool. And it's really nice to have those things balanced. So when you're thinking about a prospect, what would you say are kind of like the 2 or 3 things, Abhinav, that makes a really great partnership? Not a great sale, but like a great long-term partnership. How would you define that in the sales world?
I think for a prospect, can I get a hold of you every time when we want to talk?
Nice.
Very important. Secondly, do you understand the money this problem's costing you?
Nice.
And third, do you have a mindset as a prospect or a company that is not looking every price tag as a sticker shock, but an openness to, okay, if we really do this, this is an investment that we can really pull really good revenue or increase in whatever company goals we can. If I had these 3, even if my account executive has these 3, we have a good shot.
Nice. Yeah, I think that's, I mean, it's, again, it's right back to dating. If you better have a good excuse if you don't hit me up for 24 hours. You better have been in the fucking hospital, or else I'm not interested in continuing the conversation. Like, pick up when I call, tell me the truth, and show me that you have the ability to maybe delay instant gratification for the future. Can you push yourself through implementation? Like, do you know that this will be worth it? Do you have that mindset of this might be hard now, but it's going to be worth it?
Yeah, I think, like, the modern software cycles are really long. I think eventually these are going to get really shorter because, projects, software, things are getting shipped really fast with AI. and hopefully we would see like such a massive like percentage reduction in the time of implementation.
Oh,
Maybe
bless.
one day we'll see real time implementation,
Ugh,
but
yeah.
I think like right now it's just that you have to hold their hand through the whole process, and they could, once they sign the deal, then you have to hand them off properly and then pray that it's fine, that they won't be an instant churn.
Yeah. But I mean, again, you had that gut with your wife, where it was like it would have been so easy for you to be like, okay, well, she's not available. I'm done. You put it on her. You said, hey, if you want to be with me, you're going to have to take the steps. And it would have been easy for her to say, that's too hard. That's too scary. I'm not going to do that. But you got the verbal, and then the rest of the project plan just unfolded. You know what I mean? So it's like, I
Yep.
think that's really being futuristic and being like, is this pain big enough for you to make change? And I'll ask you in the form of a question. I've always heard that people buy painkillers, not vitamins. No one wants to have a nice to have. They have to be in pain. You have to solve a problem for them. But it sounds like you presented a very nice upside case. I can't imagine your wife's life was, I mean, I don't want to speak for her, but like absolutely horrible and that she was running away. What are your thoughts on like hey, I can make your life better versus, hey, I'm going to solve the actual problems that you have? Or is it a mix of both?
I think it's a mix of somewhat of the vision and the confidence around the vision, and also really understanding how much depth there is to the problem, because it's really hard. Like when I used to prospect as an SDR, mostly enterprise for greenhouse and Procore, they're like expensive, nice to have luxury softwares, because there are a lot of companies that would do the job much cheaper.
Yeah.
So it takes a long-term vision and really takes a lot of understanding of how you can sell it to them. And it gives you good bragging rights when you're expensive and you're one of the best. The best for them.
Yeah. Best.
And just simple questions. Who's evaluating? You're evaluating? We should meet. Okay. Oh, there's not a 30-minute discovery. Doesn't matter, because every seller, when you get the opportunity handed off to, they have their own way how they want to run the discovery. So don't stress it. Just make it sure that your AE and the prospect shows up, and then the magic will happen.
Nice. Yeah, it brings it back to like you have to just know also that you're worthy. I think about that a lot. I try to plant that seed into my prospect's mind where it's like you're too smart to be doing things the way that you're doing it. This is below your pay grade, dude. Like control C, control V. You have a master's degree. Like let's get some automation in your life. So I think it's,
Yep.
painting that futuristic vision of you deserve better. And what does that mean? It means this starts happening and this stops happening, and I'm the one that's going to bring you to the promised land.
100%. It's just like selling them I don't know, like a movie, Beginning, middle, end, all executed the way, both of you guys are aligned to execute, and should be just fine.
I love it. I love it. Everybody, prospecting equals dating, available for purchase. Is it only available online, or did you get to go to the bookstore and see your book on the shelf? That's like I like meditate on that.
It's in works. We're doing a global distribution rollout, but for now it is mostly on Amazon. But in the next, I don't know when the podcast coming out, but I'm assuming by July it would be on almost like Google, Apple, and wherever it needs to be. Hopefully.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's an incredible story. It's very inspiring. And I think we forget too, like I'm 38. David, you're what, 31?
Yeah.
Abhinav, how old are you?
I'm 36.
We're young. We're young still. We have to work for 30 more years, guys. Probably, maybe not Abhinav, because you're gonna be a millionaire any day now if you're not already. But yeah, I mean, I got to sell a lot of software, but I think we're very young. Life is people are always like, life's so short, and I'm like, yeah, but it's also long. We also have a lot of opportunities to gain experience and pivot and meet new people and leverage. So I think if you could tell yourself at 22 would you change anything about what you did, or what's one piece of advice that you would maybe give your younger self?
That's a good idea. I think like working in sales, the advice would be just be fitter than the present self. Just be physically much fitter because it helps so much when you're selling in stressful situations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go do some somatic yoga after this. Thanks to you. All right, David, take us out, dude, because Lord knows we're gonna get Abhinav back if he'll have us.
Yeah.
Of course.
So, Abhinav, thank you so much for coming on today. We really appreciate it. Everyone, as always, if you found even a tiny bit of value out of today, which I really think you found a lot more because I totally found a ton of value, press like, press subscribe, leave your thoughts in the comments. And yeah, signing out.
Yeah, thank you. Comment if you want.